Hi guys, this is Peugeot 307SW from 2005. I've got 1.6 liter engine and that's a petrol engine. And what I also have is a leak from the radiator. So it has leaked all over the floor, and you can also see the leak here. The bottom of the radiator is filled with green fluid, which is coolant. So obviously there's some hole in the radiator, and today we are going to replace the radiator in this car. Apart from that, I have constant drop in the reservoir for the coolant. I managed to go to the shop, buy a new radiator and come back, and then I don't even see the fluid anymore. It's probably a little bit below the visible level since it's not draining so much coolant. But still, that's quite dangerous to drive like that. The radiator is leaking more and more, so all of a sudden it can just drain the remaining part of the coolant, depending on what the problem is, and then you could have a problem. So before we start, remember to jack up, or same as what I did, I just used 2 ramps for the front wheels and then secured the back wheels with fixings. Or you can just jack it up from the front and then use the security of your choice, but be careful, the car is heavy. And when we are going to work from under the car, let me show you that first. So you see the bottom of the car is also covered with coolant. It's still dropping. Since we are going to drain coolant using this pipe there, we will just disconnect it and drain the coolant from the radiator. Remember that it can splash on your face, hands, so wear protective gloves, something for your face, and just be careful. Okay, so first we are going to drain the coolant. Make sure that the engine is cold before you start any operations on the cooling system. The coolant can be very hot, so you need to be sure that the engine is cold, even though wear protection, of course. Now you want to find a bucket suitable for that. I would aim 3 liters plus. I have 5 liters here, and then undo the cap for the coolant reservoir. And now what we are going to do, if you see your radiator here, we will start by undoing the bottom hose there. And of course you need to place the bucket just below the hose, because all of your coolant is going to be drained through that to the bucket. And it has the same kind of clamp that you see here, that you need to catch with the proper tool, squeeze, and then move it away from its location, so away from the radiator. Okay, I've now moved the clamp away from the radiator, and now I will remove the hose. and we'll just let it drip for a while. While the coolant is still dripping from the radiator, we can start to remove all other hoses that are keeping the radiator in place. Well, basically they're just attached to the radiator. These two parts are actually keeping it in place, but that is what we are going to do later on. So to remove this connection, you just need to pull this up. Looks like that. And then just pull the cable. And there you go. And for this one, so you see what actually helps me a lot is when I push, for example, the top part of the hose. And there it is. Okay, so the last one is located here. We are under the car now, and that is the one that we have just removed. I just put it there because I want to move the bucket, because as maybe you are able to see, this hose is lower than that one, so I expect some water to come out of that, and I will move the bucket below the hose and then disconnect it. It has the same clamp system connection as the top one and the bottom one that we've just removed, so it's gonna be quite easy, I guess. So first of all, I'll just move the clamp a bit. As always, doing it with one hand is a bit more difficult. Okay, I managed to do that. Now we take the bucket back and pull the hose. It's not easy with one hand either. Since we have now drained the coolant and removed all of the hoses from the radiator, we can start to disassemble the radiator from the car. So first we need to remove this cover, and we will do that starting from removing these pins. When you have lifted the top of it, you can just remove it, and that's how it looks like. And that's why you can't remove it when you haven't lifted the top. When you've done one, you do the rest all four the same way. And you will also need to remove these two bolts. They are star shaped, so you insert the key and you remove it. You've got two of those bolts, one here and one on the other side here, just next to the light. Okay, now if we would like to do it by the book, we would need to remove the whole front bumper, but I don't want to do that because it just takes time. So there's an easier way to remove these two parts that hold the radiator in place, and it's basically to remove this four pins and these two bolts, as I told you. And then when you've done that, you can basically bend this element to the level where you get an access for the key that can be fitted here. So inside this hole you will find a bolt for star-shaped key size 30 that holds this element in place. So you can actually remove this two, there's another socket here, these two elements that hold your radiator in place without taking off the damper. And that's basically by constructing this advanced tool. It's of course very simple. So you need a kind of, I would recommend to add some tape. Doesn't need to be strong. Some problems doing it on my own, but basically there you go. You have your tool. You bend this element. Remember to put this mechanism, locking mechanism, over it, and now you can insert the tool, find the spot. It's not easy, but yes, there it is, and unscrew the bolt. It's actually much easier than removing the whole damper. Well, removing damper is actually not an advanced thing to do, but it just takes more time than doing it like that. So I hope you get the point. I will continue to do this and show you the results. Okay, so there you have this little guy that was holding this element in place. You can now remove it. You can see that it has a threaded part. This rubber here can well, it can stay. You can also pull it out like that. This part is rubber, this is plastic. So we leave it here. And that's the interface on your radiator that you should look for when you buy a new radiator. That should be exactly the same. You get the same fixing points, so be aware of that. And that's it. Let's move to the second one and then get the radiator out of its place. Okay, I removed both of these fixing points, and now we're ready to take the radiator out. Be gentle, do it slowly, because you've got air conditioning system just on the inside between the radiator and the bumper. So you want to do it slowly, don't hurry, just make sure you do it in a correct way. There's something holding the radiator on the right side, so I need to investigate that before I continue. Okay, there's nothing holding it, so you want to try to lift it gently on both sides. And take the radiator out. That's how my old radiator looks like. So you see this surface here is very rusted. It has been switched out many years ago, or maybe never. And if you see the front, it's even more ugly. All kind of bugs stick to it. So I'm really happy to replace it with the new one. That's the empty space where the radiator was located. If you like your car, you can clean this bottom shelf for the radiator. I will do that. It's not necessary, but of course it's nicer to have a clean car. So I'll do that, and then we start with installing the new one. Okay, that's my new radiator. Looks far better than the old one. And I'll get it ready for installation. Okay, so now we want to fit this pins here into the sockets visible on the plate. And we want to be really gentle. Take the time. And now I'll go under the car to make sure it's correctly fitted. So now that's the left side. You can see that it's almost in the correct place. I'll need to push it a bit towards the bumper, and same with the other fixing point, but I will need to do it from the top. It's really good with this car that you have plenty of space to put your hands inside, and this way you can actually feel the pin that's in. The other one is in. And now the new radiator sits in place. So now what we have to do is to connect this to fixings for the radiator. I'll do that now. It's best to see what we're actually doing from this side. So you see that this part here is going to be located here when this is going to be properly made. So when I screw in the screw, now the screw is there. Now that we have both these elements holding the radiator in place, we can put this cover back in place. And it's just to place these two bolts in its locations. And then we need to put the pins inside and close it on our four locations. Okay, so now we need to refit all the hoses on the new radiator. Okay, now and we clamped it, and then we move to the next one. Okay, that's the large hose in the bottom. We take this a bit further away and then we set it in place. Okay, now we take the clamp and we clamp it. That looks very good. Okay, so before I connect this hose and that little hose to the coolant reservoir, I will start filling in coolant because I want to leave the top as breathable as possible so I get as much coolant in the first run. And then when I see any leak on top of the radiator, I will stop and I will connect the hose and this little hose. Okay, I got the first leak from this side, and then I instantly placed the hose here, and now I'm going to put the clamp on the correct position to secure the hose in place. And now we feed the smallest connection to the air reservoir. And we'll lock it. Okay. It's locked. When you have assembled back all the hose connections, just top up your coolant reservoir. I top it up with a bit more than maximum, and then you set the cap in place. And start the engine and wait until cooling system engages so your engine needs to be hot. And then there will be some fluid drain from the reservoir, and then you need to top it up afterwards. But remember that after your engine has been hot to the level that the cooling system is engaged, the coolant will be hot as well, and that's pressurized system, so be careful opening that again on the hot engine. Have some rag around it to prevent splashing of hot fluid, and just open it slowly. Okay, so as you see, I've started the engine. The temperature is above 90 degrees now, so cooling should have started. And now I'm going to check. So let's open the hood. As you can see, the level is on the maximum now, and I have filled it over maximum. That basically means that it's activated. There is no leak that I can see. Hose connections are okay. You see, it's activated. And deactivated. Now we're going to check the temperature again. It's slightly below 100. That's great. The level of fluid in the reservoir is the same, and that basically means that we've done it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and check my channel out if you're interested in Peugeot 307 mechanics. I've got plenty of movies about this car, and good luck with your Peugeot.